missed any of them, don't forget to subscribe don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel if you haven't. I will post the YouTube channel link in the chat. Okay, so far we have around 1,400 members joining WebHack Meetup, and the attendances are even more than 1,800. We're also looking for speakers. If you're waiting for a chance to share good topics, don't be hesitated. This is the time. Please fill in the form, and I will paste the link in the chat. Okay. And HackMD is one of our sponsors. We use this tool to build common notes. Everyone can contribute to these notes. Please feel free to write down what you learned in the event. All right, it's time to introduce today's speaker. Anna, she's the head of retail and payments activation for Google Play Southeast Asia and Australia. She will guide us through the fundamental of influence. And yeah, let's enjoy the workshop. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Wes. Let me share my screen. Oh, wrong one. Hold on. Good. All right. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this workshop. I'm happy to be here. My name is Anna. I work for Google Play as head of retail and payment activation. I've been here in Tokyo for more than 6 years, but my Japanese skill, my manager said it's izakaya level. I can only order food and ask where the restroom is. Basically, I work to enable digital payments to help people pay for digital content a lot easier across Southeast Asia and Australia. And at the same time, I'm also a mentor for strategic thinking and leadership for women at Google in Asia Pacific. I'm also a committee member for Google Play DEI, so that's my passion on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And today I'll be sharing about leading with influence or fundamental of influence. And I'm super delighted that you've taken a time out of your busy schedule to be here with me and listen to what I will share. And just before we start, I would like to go through on some ground rules. This is especially important because this is an online settings. First, I think it's good if you have your device put away for a second so you get the most out of this workshop. By being more present, I believe, hopefully you get the most out of this workshop. And then be brave, share your thoughts, ask questions, comment on the chat. Be inclusive, respect other people's opinion that is different from your opinion. And then the platinum rule, which is basically making sure that you know how the people around you want to be treated. And then let me know if I speak too fast, because when I get too excited, I have a tendency to speak too fast. And then hopefully by the end of this training, I'm hoping that you will be able to identify the challenges around influencing, because the higher you go up within the ladder of your work, it is important to be able to influence your stakeholders, and sometimes it can be difficult. So hopefully you'll be able to recognize the multidimensional nature of influencing, which I will share some of it. And then hopefully you'll be able to identify and utilize power sources. I will explain later what is power sources that you have within you and your environment to influence more effectively. And then you can uncover and utilize potential of your network. And I'll give you some tips on how to do it later. And then these are the agenda for today. So we'll go through the definition and goal of influence and how to build that influencing skills. How does leading with influence will help you to grow, and some of the influencing techniques. And I will also give you like a one pager that you can try to write down on the goal of your influencing skills. Any questions before I move on? Nope. Right. Cool. But before we start, I'm gonna do a quick icebreaker so everyone here, because a lot of some people are new on this Google Meet, and then I'm also just found out about WebHack. So we're gonna do a quick icebreaker just to get everyone know each other better, and then I know the motivation why you are joining the session tonight. So if you can go to menti.com, I'll paste the link on the chat as well. Let me paste this link on the chat. And then I will start presenting here. So pick an emoji. I don't know whether you can see this. Share this tab inside. Alrighty, there you go. Can you access the link?
Yes.
All right, cool. Then you can just start answering that, and then we'll see what is the emoji that best describes your current mood. Or some people are so busy, sleepy. Hopefully I don't put you to sleep after this, after listening to me talking. All right. Good, excited. Awesome. All right. It's good that people are like great and excited. I think we have a good balance between people who are busy and sleepy. I'm glad that people who are busy still take the time to join today's session. Really appreciate it. And then the next one. What? If you can live wherever in the world, where would it be, and why? Who knows? One day you can use this influencing skill to like told your manager to be like, can I be based on this country? Can I move to this country? So if you can live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why? Everyone, why the food? Anyone else wanted to share why? Iceland, because there are many great nature. Tokyo, I love the food and weather here. Yeah, +1 to that. That's why I'm here for more than 6 years already. New Zealand or Norway because of the scenery. Anyone else? Wish to live in 2 or 3 locations. Wow. Tokyo, Dubai, and Barcelona. It's awesome choices. I love Dubai too. Alrighty. Cool. Sweden, although I haven't been there. That's okay. You can like dream because like I never thought that I'm gonna live here. Like If you asked me 10 years ago, I would have never thought that I would be here. All right. So one more question. If you could have a superpower, what would it be? Time travel, teleportation. Yeah, I really wanted teleportation. Or at least have the pink door that Doraemon has. Predict the future. Superpower to determine the exact priority of all important priorities. That's always the problem, right? And to influence people to be cooperative with each other. So hopefully today we're going to go through some of that. Megamind. Oh, another teleportation. I know that it's quite popular teleportation. All right. I think one more questions after this, and then we get started to the content. I just want to make sure that I understand your motivation for today. If you can fill in, so hopefully I can share what needed. I want to become a great leader. I want to get okay. I want to learn new things. Right. Awesome. No one choose. I want to get promoted. Okay. Because when I asked to get promotion, my director told me that I need to influence the right stakeholder because they will be the one that kind of like review my promotion pack. All right. So option for multiple choice. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with it. Right, let's get going to the content. Thank you everyone for playing along with this. Right, I'm going back to my screen. Cool. So basically, nowadays the time has changed, right? The leadership style that is popular like 5 or 10 years ago, probably not relevant anymore right now. And this is a quote from Kenneth Blanchard. He's a senior leadership consultant from the US. He said that the key to successful leadership today is influence, not authority. But even though like this, a lot of leaders sometimes use their authority instead of influence to manage their teams. So the successful key for leadership is actually influence, it's not authorization. And then, so what is influence? Today I'm just gonna give you a theoretical content around it first, and hopefully after that I will give you the practical tips on how to build influence. So just before we start, another thing, you can just type it in the chat. Who do you think is the influential leader? Who do you think is an influential leader? You can just type it in the chat. Nikitani? Who is that? I don't know who is Nikitani. From? In a way, yeah. Oh, the bosom rocket. This is interesting. Like I never know all of this. Who is she? Is it also the boss of Mercury or boss of, is it DoorDash? Anyone else wanted to share? Who do you think is an influential leader? Greta Thunberg, yeah. She is one of an influential leader, even though she's still a teenager. Obama, yep. Elon Musk. Right. So it's interesting to see different example that you share about influential leader. Sorry. So these are like some of you are mention about them. This is an example of influential leader. It can be within your organization. It can be like an actual like big influential leader, like Jack Ma from Alibaba, Tim Cook from Apple, Obama, and then Elon Musk. You know, like my friend asked, like, "Hey Anna, who's your financial consultant?" I said Elon Musk Twitter. And it's just so funny. It's show how much influential he is on, like influencing the crypto pricing, right? So if you look into this influential leader, if you see the influential leader within your organization, what do you think make them successful? You can again type it in the chat. Is it because they inspire you? Is it because their commitment? Is it because their accountability, their honesty, or their integrity? So what do you think that make a person an influential leader? They are rich. Some of influential leaders are not that rich. Vision and their breakthrough and the track record. They decide the direction of the company. Right. So basically, a lot of the influential leaders, they have the attributes to change or influence someone, and into changing their thinking and behavior without imposing it directly. So I will tell you more about what is the attribute to do this. So basically, influence is the ability to change or influence someone or something, and the ability to cause the change in thinking or behavior without imposing it directly. How are you going to do that? So when you influence, basically, you are encouraging others to see your point of view and get others to take action and support it. And what is it needed to build this influence? First, you need to be consistent. You need to be consistent with the value that you hold, with the things that you say. You cannot say A today and then you say B tomorrow. You need to be consistent. That's key on making sure that you're able to build that influence. And then second is be flexible. Be flexible and open with alternative solution. What does this mean? This means we need to be open with the feedback from our team. If we face a problem, ask them, discuss with them, so the team feel that they are being heard. Or have a chat with your manager and ask them about feedback, about your performance, and see how that can open to a different alternative. The third one is be courageous. Are you brave enough to take a bigger responsibility? Are you brave enough to get a bigger target? Because having an influence, it doesn't mean we become weak, but we need to show that we have a big vision that we can achieve by empowering the team positively, or by empowering ourselves to continue to grow. And then also whether it's useful. You need to think on all of the things that you do. Is this useful? If I make a connection with this person, is it worth the effort? If I connect with this person A, what is the goal that I'm trying to build with this person A? So it's always have the intentional purpose behind it. And then make sure that when you build that influencing skill, it aligns with the team bigger goal or your own personal bigger goal. So then how to build influence? The first thing, probably you hear this a lot, the first thing to build influence is by shaping and sharpening your active listening skill. Active listening skill is listen actively. Give your full concentration to what the other people are saying versus listening passively. This is the difference between hearing and listening. When you just hear, it's just like passing through. But when you listen, the sign is like you will repeat some of the question. And we will absorb what the other people are saying when we listen. So how do you build this active listening skill? Again, the first one is to give your full attention. Focus to your the people that you talk to. Don't get distracted by your phone. Don't get distracted by your email. Put that aside when you are talking with someone. And then don't criticize or judge. Being a good listener, you will use some wording like, oh, you have an amazing idea. Oh, your opinion is really matter. So if you criticize or judge, the potential is that you kill someone's idea or you kill someone's motivation to build that connection with you. So always have this positive intention and then give a very like positive reinforcement when you try to build the influence. And then, for example, you probably have a question, what if the team member has a bad working performance and I have to give a bad feedback? How then I can deliver it and influence him to continue to grow? In my case, I always use a framework that like, you can be a leader on this company in the future, but there is a lot of things that I think you can grow better. So always give that positive reinforcement, either to your team member or to your manager when you want to give a feedback. And then the third one is self-introspection. Are we taking a lot of airtime more than our counterparts? Making sure that it's a balanced conversation so you don't really monopolize or the conversation, or you take a lot of airtime versus the other party. And then again, repeat the questions. An active listener usually will repeat a part of a sentence from the other party. It gives signal that you listen. The same thing needed with influencing. For example, you want to influence your stakeholder. You can repeat, I hear from this meeting that this is your main goal. I have a proposal that is aligned with that goal. So always repeat the questions. And then state the summary. This is basically a continuation of repeat the questions, making sure that you make a summary and then make sure that you understand the overall message that they are trying to deliver. The sentences that you will use just like, so just to get the question right, is this what you're trying to say? So you're aligned on that one first. And then again, the last one is share your experience. So your counterpart or your team feel that you faced the same challenges before. It makes them easier. It makes you easier to influence them if they feel that you have the same experience. Sorry, I just look into some of the comment. What if a really bad idea? So we have this. I had this training called PQ Rep, positive, like you have IQ, you have EQ. When there's a really bad idea, try to find the 10% out of that idea that you like. I believe in a bad idea, there must be at least 10% that you like from that idea. Use that to like give that feedback. So for example, hey, I have an idea of like making a flying car, like for example, I'm just making things up. And then you can mention that like, I like that idea. It's something that's probably feasible because we have drones and everything. But like, give them your thoughts on how that can be better. Always try to find that 10% of that bad idea or that bad feedback that you like. By doing that, you find the positive things out of that bad idea. All right. And then once you understand on how to make the active listening skill, this is how you do stakeholder mapping. Stakeholder mapping is important so you know how that person can play a role in approving your project or sponsoring your project. So first you need to know what is the level of interest do they have? What is the level of power that they can help you, or they might be a roadblock, and how are your relationship with them? So the horizontal line is the interest of that person to your goal. And then the vertical one is the power that they have to help you achieve your goals. So for example, if that person has high interest to your goal and then has high power to help you achieve that goal, you need to keep them fully engaged. So you need to build like one-on-one with that person. You need to send an update to that person. So make sure that you know how is that person located within this mapping. Like for example, and then there's another person that has low interest in your goal, and then they also have low power to achieve your goal. What do you need to do with this person? So you just need to give them a critical updates. That's it. You don't need to have a one-on-one regularly with them. You just need to send them email of summary of the project that you do. So with this, you put on your resources to the most impactful one. All right. All right. And then, so how do you lead then with influence? How do you build persuasion? How do you build inspiration? So leadership is basically about empathy. It's about having the ability to relate to other people, experience, understanding about their background, understanding the context, with a goal to inspire and empower them, make their life better, make their career better. So, hopefully I didn't skip. So how do you build that? How do you then build and lead with influence? The way is, the foundation is basically having a full self-awareness. When we have self-awareness, we became a person who are more self-confident, much more creative. We can make a better decision. We can build a better relationship and communicate more effectively. We tend not to lie or cheat or fraud. So we build trust with other people because we have that sense of self-awareness. And eventually, when we have a strong foundation, we can build this influence because your team or your leadership will be happy with the way you work because you're being mindful, you're being effective in your communicating, you build an amazing network within your team. And at the same time, it will impact the way your performance in your work as well. So how do you build that? To lead with influence is easy once you know about your power sources. So we have two power sources. The first one that I want to explain here is your personal power sources. Your personal power sources can be your knowledge, the way you express yourself, your background. Your background can be your educational background, your family, your charm. It doesn't have to be like, oh, you're handsome or you're pretty. No, it's about the charms that you bring or the vibe that you radiate across the room when you enter a meeting. Even like from all of the influential leader that you saw, I believe all of them radiate a certain vibe that you can tell that, oh, these are influential leader. And your character is also important. And before I move on, I'm just gonna ask you on, how do I, again, back to the Mentimeter using the same link. What do you think is your personal power sources? There is knowledge, expressiveness, history, attraction, character. What is your personal power sources? Character, knowledge, character. It's good to see that people choose character a lot here because I will tell you later why that's important. Right. Right. And then I'll share you later why character is important as your tool for power sources. And the second one is organizational sources. Organizational sources include your position, your resources. Your resources can be like your tools, your team member is all your resources, and information, what level of information you have within your organization, and network. How do you build your network within your organization? Do you have network just within your organization, or do you have like cross-functional stakeholder within that network that you have within the company? And then the last one is reputation. Reputation is important because that's how you start building your influence. And these are the two most powerful combination of personal and organizational power sources that mostly use. It's character and network and reputation. Your character matters because that's how people will perceive you when they see you. And then your networks also matter because always try to find your sponsor and a mentor. Your sponsor is usually people within your organization or your leadership, and your mentor usually someone outside the organization, so you can get a fresh perspective from other side of the organization. And you can use that when you have a discussion with a leader that you want to influence. And it's time to change. It's time to build your influencing techniques. How do you build that? This is an approach of conjure 4 steps. It's very straightforward. First, you need to establish that credibility. How do you establish that credibility? You can start by having a regular meeting with the person that you want to influence. It can be, you can start building a regular cadence. It can be once a week or twice a week, depends on the level of influence that you want to build. When you have that meeting with this person, try to frame a common ground. Understand what is their main goal, how will that align with your goal? And then provide evidence. Evidence here is that like, hey, I'm able to deliver this, I'm able to do this. Provide evidence and data that the goal that you are planning to share with them align with the bigger goal. And then lastly, connect emotionally. This has to do with how you build that active listening skill and empathy that I mentioned earlier. This is the simple 4 step on how to start building that influence. Think about like, how do you build this connection with this person? How does this look like in an email setting, in a one-on-one session, in a group setting? So you can try different type of forum to start building your network and reputation. Some of the common influencing mistakes is they do a lot of upfront hard sell. Make sure that you understand their goal first and align it with your goal. So it doesn't sound that you are selling too much or pitching too much about yourself or about your goal. But again, having that empathy and self-awareness will help you to tone down this upfront hard sell. And then resist to compromise, don't compromise things. Really have focus on what you want to achieve on building that connection. Think that the secret lies in presenting great arguments. What I mean here is that always have this structural thought and the why, the what, and the how you are doing this. And never assume that influencing is a one-shot effort. It takes time to build that influence with the people that you want to influence. So it's not like after this, then everyone that joins today's session will be able to influence people in their network. No, you will need to build that connection regularly to be able to influence other people. And another approach on influencing technique, aside from the conjure step, is use your logic, use rational position and intellectual information, use your emotion to connect with the team. Again, this has to do with the active listening, and be cooperative, involve collaboration and consultation. When you want to influence your team to go with your direction, if you want to influence your leaders to approve your proposal, show that you are a person who's willing to listen to feedback, ask their opinion, ask feedback regularly, show that you make a progress from that feedback. Ahmad Fatoni asks, conjure 4 steps, one-on-one meetings. So conjure 4 steps that I shared earlier is just a framework. You can use that on a one-on-one meetings, or you can use that on a group settings, or even an email settings. Just to make sure that you remember this, you can send a regular update. Like, for example, I built this community within Google, which is People Manager Roundtable. To establish that credibility as the leader for People Manager Roundtable, I usually send regular updates on sources for People Manager to use in a monthly basis. So I can send like learning links. I send about like internal tools that manager can use, and then frame common ground. So again, these settings can be not only one-on-one meetings. It can be an email. It can be one-on-one. It can be group settings. Hopefully that answered the question. Cool. And lastly, when you want to influence, don't avoid when your team has a difficult questions, or when your leader has a difficult questions. Don't avoid that. Have a discussion. Understand better about their concern. Understand better about their questions. So it create a more positive environment and collaboration. Don't threat, don't intimidate, don't manipulate, because this will trigger a negative and psychologically unsafe environment. Ask them to communicate openly and give them positive feedback. And I will share this later, or I think you already have the access to this presentation. This is like a one-pager on how you can build your influencing skills. Try to identify which stakeholder that you want to influence to meet your goal. Like, for example, my goal was to get this project approved, or my goal was to get my manager give me additional headcount. And then look into like, what is the milestone towards that goal? Who is the person that I need to influence the most to get that goal? And what is the thing that I need to do to strengthen my relationship with this person? And then after that, the table in the center is about like, what is the personal power sources that I will use to influence this person? Map out what is your top personal power sources, and then what do you think your stakeholder power sources? And how you can leverage that. Also look into what is your organizational power sources, and then your stakeholder organizational power sources. After the last bucket is how is building your plan. How will you try to use influence and then practice? So I'm going to use these influencing techniques. For example, I will use this conjure 4 steps, or I will use this emotional or cooperative tactics. And then what is the ask that you will ask this person to support? How are you planning to support? How are you planning to ask them to support you? And share what do you learn from this practice. So this is a simple like board for you to like start building that influencing skills. A lot of the time people just build connection without an intention behind it. It's very spontaneous, but when you build influence, you need to be much more intentional when you build that relationship. All right, just to close this session, to be persuasive, we must be believable, and to be believable, we must be credible, build that credibility, and to be credible, we must be truthful. So hopefully today a session helpful. Let me know if you have any question. Happy to take some questions.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Yeah, does anyone have more questions? You can either unmute yourself, have discussion directly with Anna, or post the questions at chat. Yeah, by the way, I like the sentence, leadership is about empathy. I always think that my manager is really good at management. I didn't know why, but after your presentation, I feel maybe it's because of empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Ahmad Patani has a question. Go ahead, Ahmad.
Yeah, so how can we measure our progress with influence?
How do you think you measure the progress of your influence?
Yeah, influencing, like, yeah.
Okay, so this is the thing that you can measure personally, or like, again, you set your goal. Like, for example, it can be like a personal goal. Like, for example, in my case, I want to influence my husband to buy me a car, for example. How do I build that influence, right? Like, you can measure that once you know your goal. Like, for example, this is milestone 1. On week 1, I want to start building a connection with this person. On week 2, I want to start this person having giving me feedback. Approve milestone, making your milestone that you want to reach either every single week or every single meeting that you have with this person. That's building influence. So measuring really depends on you. People has different tools on how they measure influence, or other people say like, oh, I want to have more connection and influence with director level. How do you build that? How do you measure that? Like, for example, by end of next quarter, I want to have like 3 directors approving my project or becoming my peer reviewer or support my promotion. Start by, okay, first I need to build that connection. How do you build that? How do you build that one-on-one cadence? It really depends on how you measure it. I think you really need to understand the goal first and then build that milestone toward the goal, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
We have a question from the chat.
From Karen, in your own career, when did you start considering influence, and how did you learn about influence? So I start considering influence when I start leading a team, because I need to influence down and influence up. It required different skill set to influence down and influence up. This session today is basically about influencing fundamental influence. I have another material to cover how to influence up. So that's when I start considering influence on how I need to build that, because people say when you go up the ladder, when you become a people manager, you need to be able to build that influencing skill to make people go within your direction without really telling them, hey, go to my direction, right? Like if you're a team manager, especially like in a tech company, you cannot really tell your team. Your team will give you like a lot of feedback, but how are you influencing them that they will go towards your direction? So that's when I start considering influence, building my influencing skill. Again, Wes mentioned earlier about like, it required a lot of empathy and self-awareness on that. I learned about influence through many sources. We have a similar training with the same format like this within the company that I work with. There's also, I have an executive coach that told me on how to build influence. My executive coach interestingly said like, most of the time it requires a good influencing skill will require a good communication skill at the same time. At one point I have a tendency to give a long answer instead of a very straightforward answer. So when people ask you a question, give a very straightforward answer first, then create that communication versus like giving a very long answer in the beginning. So that's how I learned about influence. And yeah, a lot of books about influencing skill as well. Become an influencer seems exhausted. How to build up a good mindset to keep the momentum. I think really become a social media influencer probably exhausted. But when you build the influencing skill, it can come natural within you once you do a lot of practice. It's like the muscle that you need to build, right? As I mentioned earlier, it doesn't come in one night, then you build that influencing skill. It requires a lot of continuous networking, reputation building, So you just need to practice to build up that influencing skill muscle. How to build up a good mindset is really looking into like the sage within you. So a lot of the time we have a saboteur inside us, right? Like this saboteur will tell us like, oh, you're just wasting a lot of time on building that connection, or being an influencer is exhausted. It's tiring, or you're not good enough. You don't have that skill to build that influence. That's the saboteur inside you. But you have this sage that can actually help you to like, well, if I build this, I actually can accomplish this, and I can have a meaning in my life, right? Because work is just work, but like how do you bring meaning to your work is much more important, and that by influencing you can build that meaning to your work. Just again, continue to have that positive thinking, and then build that sage within you versus focusing on the saboteur, because the saboteur within you will continue to like sabotage your mind and say like, oh, this is just time consuming, this is just exhausting. But like think through about like, what is the gift within that influencing skill that you can bring to other people?
Cool. We have another one.
Typo ask questions. How would you connect your influence with your evaluation? How do you make sure the influence you made can be recognized by your manager or higher ups? This is a good question because I have this discussion a lot with my team member, especially during performance review. I don't know how that works within the other company, but within the company that I work with, I need to start building that influence or networking 6 months ahead of my performance review time. So I usually have a discussion with my team member. Okay, what is your plan in the next 6 months? Who are your stakeholders? How are you planning to build that relationship with that stakeholder? I have the same conversation with my manager. Hi, manager, this is my plan for the next 6 months. These are the stakeholders that I'm planning to build relationship with, and they will be my peer reviewer. So they know that I work with this director XYZ, and they become my peer reviewer, because again, it's an intentional thing, right? I already think about it 6 months prior to my performance review time. So that's how I build it. And then at the same time, because I built that intentional relationship, I can mention to that person that I built connection, hey, do you have any all hands that I can join, that I can present about my work? And then when they invited me to the all hands, I invited my manager. So they recognize, oh, and it's being invited by Google Malaysia all hands, and she will present about payments. So they recognize that. Again, that is being strategically intentional and connecting that with my career plan in the next 6 months. Hope that helps.
Thank you. Really clear.
Any other burning questions?
I think we can have maybe one more before networking if someone want to ask something. Ten seconds.
Hopefully I don't put people to sleep.
No. Yeah, I think you explained very clear, so that's the reason why we don't have more questions.
Awesome.
Okay, then yeah, I think we can move to networking session.
Would love to hear about influencing up and down another time.
Oh,
yeah,
cool. Nice.
Yeah, I have another content about influencing up, which require. It's like going to a gym, right? Like going to a gym, you practice one muscle. Influencing up and down require a different muscle. If you're interested, I'm happy to share more about influencing up and down as well.
Okay. Ahmed, do you want to hear more?
Yeah, thank you. So maybe if we have any other session next time, I'll make sure I will join. Thank you.
You can, if you have more, if you come up with more questions, you can ask in the networking later as well. We'll have like around 30 minutes. Yeah. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, before we start the networking session, I'd like to ask you guys to fill in this feedback form so that we can keep improving ourselves in the future. I will also paste the link in the chat. Wait a minute. About today's networking, we will use a new tool called Special Chat. I think in the chat there's a link in the chat already. So if you enter the chat, enter Special Chat by using this link, in the beginning you will see this screen. This is the sign up step. This one is really it's very easy. You just have to put your name. That's it. And then after you enter the space, as you can see, there are many different stages. You will find out that you becomes a dot, a circle in this space. You can drag yourself to different stages, and then you can hear and talk with people on the same stage. We also provide some topics related to today's workshop. Feel free to have discussion based on these topics, but of course you can talk whatever you want. You can you don't have to follow the questions. You can talk about your work experience or even enjoy a chit chat. And on the top of the screen, there's a QR code. It's a feedback form related to this networking session. Please fill in this form before you leave. We need your feedback to make our event better. Okay, so let's move ourselves to the networking space. You can either use PC or mobile to enter the link. I'll see you there. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Anna.
Yeah, let's move to